the young man's leaving home. He's got all his money and all his possessions together. His bags are packed. And he's leaving home. He wants to be free. His father watches, heartbroken, as he packs and then as he walks down the road away. And the money is spent on wild parties and excess, and he has lots of friends to help him spend this pot of money that he has. Then the money's gone, and because the money's gone, his friends have all abandoned him and left him on his own. And so he's alone in despair, doing one of these dead-end jobs that he really hates. And he begins to compose in his head a speech that he'll make because he wants to go home and apply for a job as a farmhand on his father's farm. So he begins to travel home, and as he travels he's rehearsing the speech in his head, and he's got it off pat. And as he nears home, his dad sees him coming. His dad's been watching for him coming. His dad sees him coming and rushes out to welcome him. He hugs him. He welcomes him back into the family as a son. He throws a party to welcome home the son who was lost and now is found again. The father loving and caring for his wayward son. Jesus tells this story as a way of trying to help us understand what God is like. And the tradition tells us this story is called the prodigal son, and that's entered into our language as a way of describing all kinds of things now. But the German theologian Helmut Thielicke gives this story the title, The Waiting Father. It changes the whole way that we look at the story and who we look at in the story, and I like that. The Bible doesn't set out to prove that God exists. No one can do that. For me to say I believe in God is a statement of faith. For someone to say there is no God is equally a statement of faith. Because I can't prove that God exists, just as no one can prove that God doesn't exist. Instead, what the Bible sets out to do is to show us something of what God is like. This is the God that we believe in. And the story today that we're telling about this young man and his dad, Jesus tells the story to show us something of what God is like. This is what God is like. God is the waiting father who loves and cares for his son, who welcomes him home and who loves him unconditionally. Jesus calls God Father. And he invites us to pray using the same title. To call God our Father as one who loves and cares for us and who listens to us when we pray. I once told this story to a group of children in Cambodia. There's about 500 of them in a clearing in the forest, and I got to tell the story just as the food arrived, and for the most of the children the food was much more interesting than listening to me, so I'm not quite sure how many of them actually listened to the story, but I reflected on it afterwards, and I began to wonder to myself what they made of this story. Because most children in Cambodia, their fathers are away from home working to earn money, and the money gets sent back. A lot of children don't know their fathers, and for some the fathers have deserted the families altogether, and so the fathers are not there. And so I began to wonder what they made of a story of a father who loves and cares for his children in the way that the father in the story does. And so often we judge God by our experience of fathers in other ways, when in fact it should be the other way round. God is the perfect father, and we should take our sense of fatherhood from him. So Jesus invites us to call God Father. This is the God that we believe in. I believe in God the Father, says the Creed. The Father who loves us, who cares for us, who listens to our prayers, who wants to help us, who loves us unconditionally, who in effect hugs us and welcomes us into his family.